Told you about a new law that removes the statute of limitations for physical abuse. It would allow survivors to seek justice and file lawsuits over childhood abuse. The conversation began after claims of widespread abuse at the St. Joseph's Orphanage in Burlington and the Kurn Hattin Homes for Children. Joining us now is Chelsea Edgar from 7 Days. Chelsea, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Darren.
You bet. You looked into this new law. While it's a bit of a win for survivors, there are also a lot of challenges for the former residents at the orphanage. Tell us about that.
Sure. So back in the 1990s, a number of former residents of St. Joseph's Orphanage, some 200, I believe, accepted $5,000 settlements from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Burlington. And that is going to be a problem. I spoke with lawyer Jerry O'Neill, who has represented many plaintiffs in childhood sexual abuse cases against the diocese. And this previous settlement, essentially, for those individuals, they may not be able to bring new claims. The diocese won't be willing to relitigate those settlements in most cases. So that is one major challenge for this group of individuals.
So are there any options for them then?
So, I mean, they can certainly try to sue, and that, could be an arduous task given the lack of records and documentation. Many of the nuns and priests who were accused of abuse at St. Joseph's Orphanage are no longer alive. The Sisters of Providence, the order of nuns based in Montreal that staffed the orphanage, has not cooperated with recent investigations, including the Attorney General's investigation that concluded in December 2020. So it's, as some survivors told me, it feels a bit like trying to get blood from a stone, but at the same time, they are very motivated to try and seek justice and, try to get some kind of reparations for the trauma and the harm that they've suffered in their lives.
In the last 20 years, as you know, the diocese has paid out millions of dollars for childhood sex abuse settlements. If these new cases of physical abuse do move forward, what's going to happen to the diocese, and can they afford to pay these claims?
That's a good question, Darren. So Bishop Coyne told me that the diocese is currently facing 10 pending childhood sexual abuse claims. And if those 10 claims are settled in full, he says that will exceed the diocese's available financial resources. Now, some people dispute that and say that the diocese, in fact, has more financial assets than it claims. But, that's a sort of matter of debate. I think it is clear that the diocese has paid out a lot of money in sexual abuse claims over the past 20 years, something like $32 million. And so to the extent that they do have resources now, they certainly have fewer than they did because of the very high volume of lawsuits they've faced.
You can read Chelsea's story in this week's edition of 7 Days. It's out today. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here as always. Stay well.
Thank you. You too, Darren.